talk to that.
Yeah.
It's silly.
Okay, so we're gonna pick up with where we left off yesterday. Again, do not work ahead and stay with me. Remember, it has the equation here. Your units are set. There is no debate on what the units are gonna be, okay? The units are also really helpful because they can help you figure out what the numbers are. So if you see a kilogram and you don't know what the number is, well, if you see kilogram, you know it's always gonna be a mass, so then that number would be a mass. Same thing, if you see a meter per second, well, that's gonna be a velocity. So even if the problem doesn't come right out and say it, you should be able to decode it based off of your units. The hints, notice that it is in bold, it is in a different font. Pay attention to that. We're gonna actually look at these today. Because when you're solving for mass or velocity, you have to get rid of the half and you have to get rid of the square, because you're not solving for half the mass and you're not solving for or squaring the velocity. You want just the mass, all of it, and you want just the velocity. You don't want it squared. So it reminds you how to get rid of that, and we'll look at that basically now on number 5. Let me get caught up with where you guys were. We had kinetic energy of 14, we had a mass of 17, and the velocity was our unknown. Remember, if I accidentally say volume, probably because I'm thinking the density equation, mass and volume. If I say volume, I mean velocity. So still just putting that out there. So we do our normal equation. There is no rearranging, and you guys should have already had this part done. Now I'm going to fill in my KE is 14. I take 1/2. My mass I put in parentheses. When you guys see parentheses, we're all pretty well trained at this point in time to understand, like, that means you're going to do something, right? If you have that parentheses, it's because it's going to be doing something. So that's why I think it's nice to do that, at least while you're getting in the hang of this. Multiply, and then my v squared is what I'm trying to solve for, right? Everybody, that's where we're caught up with? Good. All right, so now we just start simplifying. And I didn't say this yesterday, but you're welcome to do this. We'll bring down what we're not doing anything with just yet. So 14 equals, here's where I didn't say anything. If you want to do the arrows to bring down, like showing, hey, this is going to get simplified to this. You know, I know a lot of you in algebra will do that. You'll draw that little arrow, like, hey, this is simplifying. So what is 1/2 of 17, which really you end up with 17 over 2. What do we get there? Brady?
8.5.
Okay, so if we make this 8.5, oops, let me fix got a little squirrely on me. 8.5, I bring down my times and I bring down my v squared. All right, so here's a step where sometimes people like, where do I go? There's nothing left to simplify, okay? So if I have 8.5 times velocity, what is the inverse of multiplication? Veronica? Okay, so if this is wanting me to multiply, my ultimate goal is to get velocity by itself. So I need to get rid of the 8.5. And the way we're going to do that is to divide both sides by 8.5. If I divide it here, it gets rid of it. What's the rule of algebra say? What I do on one side, we have to do on the other. So now I'm going to take and divide my 14 by 8.5 as well. What do we get? 14 divided by 8.5. What'd you get?
1.647.
Okay.
588.
Let's just go to a 10, right? If that helps, I had somebody question it in the afternoon. If you get a decimal answer, just round it to the 10th. So it was 1.6 what?
47.
Okay, so we'll say 1.6 So now this is simplified, and I'm just out of room, so I'm coming over here, equals, this is gone, and now I'm just left with a v squared. Do we want the v to be squared, or do we want it alone?
And then we want it to be alone.
We do. And so the hint at the top of the page, or, you know, on the front side of this page, it says to get rid of the square, find the square root. All right, so I square root this and I get v alone, which is exactly what we want. But like Kenna just said, whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we have to find the square root of 1.6 as well. And what is that thing?
1.26.
Yes. 1.26, so we'll just round that up to 3. And so our velocity is 1.3. And if you're not sure what the units are, look back at the top of the page. It has that little box, and it will be the meter per second. Okay, so it's more just making sure that you are following step by step by step. So plugging in what we know, simplifying what we can, looking at the operation and wanting to get rid of the numbers. So getting rid of the 8.5 by dividing, we do it to both sides, we're left with 1.6. Now we want the v alone, find the square root, and there we go. Okay? So it's not hard, there are just a lot of steps. So make sure that you have what I have, because it just makes it easier as you get going. Let's go down to number 7. Let's skip to number 7. An object has a kinetic energy of 88 joules and a mass of 45 kilograms. How fast is the object? So Billy, give me something to underline. Okay, joules tells me energy. Oops. 88, right? All right, what else, Caden?
45.
And that's my mass, which kilograms tells me mass. And it says, how fast is the object moving? So Kendall, what are we solving for? Good. And you decoded fast for meaning velocity. So we just write the equation. There's no rearranging. We do KE equals 1/2 mass times V squared. I plug in what I know. So I know I have 88 equals 1/2, I do parentheses for 45 times V squared. Just like we did on number 5, we are going to simplify what we know. I'm going to bring down what I can't do anything with, which is the 88 equals, but 1/2 of 45, I can find that. 1/2 of 45, we get 45 over 2. What do we get there? $45 divided by 2? Okay, so we can just round that to, we can either do the 22.5 or we can round it to the whole, we'll just round up to 23 times V squared. We're at the point where there's nothing left to simplify. So we're gonna start moving into, how do I get my variable alone? How do I get the V by itself? So save getting rid of the square till the very end. And how are we gonna get rid of the 23 over here? What do you think, Andy? What's this telling my 23 to do? Right, so what's gonna be the inverse of that? Good. So to get rid of my 23, I divide both sides by 23. So that gets rid of it, and now I bring it over. And what is 88 divided by 23? Yeah.
3.82.
Okay. So we'll just say 3.8, and that is equal to my V squared. Okay, so this gave me that. And how do I get rid of the square? Square root it. I don't know why, I always hear it like in a like Scottish accent in my head. I don't know why, ever since I've been little, like
Square root.
square root it. So I find the square root, and that leaves me with v, which is exactly what I want, but I have to do it to both sides, so what is the square root of 3.8?
1.9.
Thank you, you've been very helpful with the numbers today. Okay. Good. And we would have gotten a slightly different number if we had done 22.5. I guess if it does come out to a decimal, maybe we should just kind of stick with the standard, try to leave it as at least to a tenth. And that way you guys are all gonna probably be getting the same answers. If I see your work, then I'll see, oh, you rounded up or you left it. But make sure like I can see like where your numbers come from. If you are somebody who a lot of times doesn't show your work, there are multiple steps involved here. I would suggest that you do show your work. A few of you have shown that you're pretty good with like doing it in your head, but there's a lot involved here. So I would at least encourage you at first for a while to make sure we continue showing work. And that way I can see where you went wrong and not just be like, sorry, you got the wrong answer, because I don't know where you got anything from. So 5 and 7 are examples for solving for velocity. Let's go to number 6. A bike is moving with a velocity of 1.5 meters per second and a kinetic energy of 60 joules. What is the mass of the car? Egypt, give me something to underline.
1.5.
Okay. Yeah, 1.5? That's my velocity. Do you have your paper? You just missed 2 of our examples for velocity, so you're gonna have to figure that out on your own now. All right, what else do I need to underline? Layla? Okay, so we have 60 joules. Joules tells me kinetic energy. And so what are we solving for here, Garrett? Good, that's my question mark. So again, there's no rearranging, we just use our standard. And it is important to write the equation, even though like you're probably getting to the point already where you're like, I know it, but it's easier to plug it in once you have it written right in front of you. So kinetic, I fill in 60. 1/2 m is gonna stay that way because I don't know my m, but I do have velocity now, and that's 1.5, and I need to make sure I square that. So now I start simplifying. I can't do anything with my 60 equaling 1/2 m, but I can simplify 1.5. So is that gonna be 1.5 times 2 or 1.5 times 1.5? Garrett?
1.5 times 1.5.
Yes, and what is that answer? Who's got that? 2.25, so we'll say 2.3. Good. Same thing, we're at the point where there's no more simplifying. We need to try to get mass on the right-hand side by itself. So we want to get rid of the 2.3. This is still multiplication. So what are we going to do to get rid of the 2.3, Brady?
Oh,
Not yet.
oh,
Not yet. Hold that thought. You're right. To get rid of the half, we will. Let's save that for the very end. Just like we saved the v squared for the very end.
divide.
Okay. 2.3, since we're multiplying by 2.3, let's just divide by 2.3 and bam, gone. Now, whatever we do to one side, we do to the other. So 60 divided by 2.3, what do we have there? Nevaeh?
26.08.
26.08, so let's just do 26. Okay, so 26, this now has become 26, and it equals 1/2 m. Brady, what do we do now?
Multiply by 2.
Good. And again, I think it's easier to do it in this order, getting rid of the half and the squares at the very end. instead of trying to do it, because then you have to do it for multiple things and it just gets confusing. So to multiply 1/2 by 2, when we do that, everything cancels out and we get 1, which is why this works. So I'm gonna multiply by 2, getting rid of that, leaving me with m alone, but then we have to multiply by 2 over here. So 2 times 26 gives us 52. 52, and what are the units gonna be for mass? Good. So again, save getting rid of the half and getting rid of the square to the very last step. If you try to get rid of it earlier, it can work, but it's actually more work involved. It makes it more confusing. Any question? Maybe you're sweating because you're like all hyper all of a
I
sudden.
don't have any questions, I'm not answering for the rest of it. It is so hot in here, I feel like I'm on fire.
Is anybody else hot?
And a gray shirt was not a
Did
good
you
idea.
drink like a bunch of something this morning? Energy?
No.
I'm wearing
man.
all black and I'm.
No, man.
And a gray shirt was not, I'm done answering for today. It's
Okay. You're fine. You're answering
Hey,
good.
I can see on both
I don't know.
sides.
I don't know why you're so hot though. Like the
It's
heat's even like down. It's kind
I'm
of cool
literally,
feeling.
I'm literally like dripping sweat off my forehead.
I
It's
know,
so
and you're
hot.
like,
Cause it's hot, I'm like freaking out.
I'm fine, Garrett.
okay.
I can't.
Hey, I don't care. Garrett's answering questions today. I'll
No
take
more,
it.
no more.
You're here.
Come on.
Right.
It's
Thank
bad.
you.
It's really bad.
Your notes are on the counter and there's a white paper in the blue binder for you.
Here,
Okay.
spaz it out.
I can't.
Here we go, number 8. A scooter has a velocity of 21 meters per second and has a kinetic energy of 1,400 joules. What is the mass of the scooter? So, Brooklyn, give me something to underline.
1,400.
Okay, and that's my kinetic energy. It's joules, and that tells me that, but it also says it. So I'm gonna fill that in here. And what else is given, Kenna?
The velocity of 21.
Okay, so I'm gonna fill that in, and then what are we solving for here, Howard?
Oh, boy. Mass.
Good. That's what I circled, that's my question mark. So again, I do not rearrange, I keep the equation the normal version. Now I start filling in. 1,400 equals 1/2, again, mass is my unknown, so I leave it m. And then my velocity is 21, and I make sure I put the square there. If you do not put the square, that is definitely gonna have a huge effect on your answer.
It's good.
You're fine.
No, it's pretty good.
It's,
Let's take a look.
Okay,
Look how to put it
stop.
on, too.
Focus, you're fine. So, now we start simplifying. I can't do anything with my 1,400 or my 1/2 m. I save the 1/2 m for the end, but I can simplify 21 squared. So what is that answer?
441.
441? Yeah, okay. Now we're to the point where we can't simplify anymore. Like there's no more simplifying that needs done. So how do I get rid of the 441? Because we were trying to get m by itself. Again, we're gonna leave the 1/2 for the end. Dane, what do we do? Alright. So no matter whether you're solving for mass or you're solving for velocity, you're always gonna end up dividing the one you're given to get it out of there. So 441 cancels, but you have to do division of 441 on the other side. Rules of algebra, what you do on one side, you do to the other. So what is 1,400 divided by 441?
3.2.
3.2, and that's gonna equal 1/2 m. So this answer gave us that. Okay, how's that gonna help with your heat situation?
No, it's fine.
Okay, okay. You're more into looks than comfort, is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay. No problem. Alright, how do I get rid of the 1/2? And if you forget, go back to the top of the front page, what's the hint? Multiply both sides by 2. That gets rid of it, and that turns this into what, 6.4? And so I get 6.4, and what are the units that will go with this, Billy? Dang, good. Alright, any questions on that? Alright, so here's what we need to do. It is time for you to try these on your own. You have 2 examples of mass, 2 examples of solving for velocity. You have 1 example, I think, of solving for kinetic energy. You have 1 of each type on the front page.
Yeah.
That is your job for the next 15 minutes. Okay, when you get the front side done, you need to bring it up to me so that I can take a look.